Hey guys, and welcome to or back to the Pause and Pursuit podcast with your host, Summer Clark. So this week we are going to be delving into the science behind the common phrase, it'll happen when you least expect it. So you've probably heard that a lot. I have definitely heard that a lot. And it's more recently that I've kind of realised, wait, that is literally so true. Like, people often use it when talking about relationships, don't they? Which has never really been the case for me. However, it really is the case in agility. Like, when you least expect results in agility, they come to you. I swear to God. And I was like, you know what? I think I know why this is, but I want to learn a bit more about it. I want to kind of learn the science, the psychology behind this phrase and why it is actually so true. So I thought, what better thing to talk about in a podcast episode than this that I want to research anyway. So that is what we are going to be talking about today. Quick weekly recap though before we jump into it. So I'm a very, very tired gal. You could probably hear it in my voice. I am wiped out. Last week, I pretty much spent all week setting up my new venue. If you want to hear more about that, I go into it in the previous episode here on the podcast, last week's episode, which was tiring in itself last week doing that. I also judged at Point Zero on Thursday. And to be fair, it's one of the nicest days of judging I've ever had. It was such a nice show. There was only 2 rings, really, really nice venue. We had really good weather, not too hot, not too cold. Did get some, sunshine, but it wasn't like standing out in the horrible summer heat like it often is in the summer when you're judging. It's just a really, really enjoyable day. Everyone there was just so nice, so kind and complimentary. I actually had 2 people come up to me and tell me that they listened to the podcast. And one lovely lady did give me a great suggestion for a future episode. So it's not this one, but it is going to be coming. So thank you to this person for giving me a great episode idea, which I think is great and I think you're all going to love. So that'll be coming soon. What else have I done? So then on Saturday, we had the IQ at Dog Sports Derby, so the international qualifier for Team GB. Now, obviously, I don't actually need these because I automatically qualify for the process to try out for Team GB next year because I'm on it this year. But, they're great opportunities to get practice on Astro at an indoor venue, obviously being Dog Sports Derby, and also on international style courses. Wasn't really our day, but despite the combination of Arrow going crazy on the Astro after, I don't think we've competed on the Astro since last winter. So since March, I think was the last time we ran on Astro. And then obviously me lacking enough mental clarity to function after a very bizarre and tiring week. So I was just kind of not there mentally on Saturday and I could kind of tell that. But we still did manage to do some half decent work. Really, really cool bits in both of Arrow's runs. Just a few little slip-ups on both of our parts in each. But like I said, I kind of expected it because I wasn't all there. I knew he was going to be off his head being back on the Astro for the first time. But he did do a flawless seesaw into the wall with perfect straight into 2-on-2 off criteria. So that was great. And it was the first one of the day as well. It's only seesaw of the day, but usually his first one is worse and then they get better. But this one was literally perfect from the get-go. So very, very happy with that. Like I said, I think our hard work is absolutely paying off. Like enforcing criteria in the ring, really, really paying off. You can tell, which is amazing and makes me very happy. So that was Saturday. And then on Sunday, we popped over to Iconics. I was considering having a day off on this day when I was planning my month when I entered Iconics. Because obviously busy week, but I was like, you know what? No, I love Iconics. I love the courses. I love the venue. We're going to go. And yeah, we had a great day. Arrow was on absolute fire. We were definitely back to it after a bit of a wobble on Saturday. I felt much more there and yeah, Arrow was fab. We had the fastest time with just a pole in the jump-in and that was kind of sad because we would have qualified for the Iconics 4-7 final if he kept that pole up, because we had to win the class to do so. So that was kind of sad, but again, really, really, really pleased with him. That run on that course was just phenomenal. So really super pleased with that. Very, very close to making the final. But like I said, we did win the 4-7 final at the event last year. So, been there, done that, can't be too upset. But yeah, I wasn't too bothered about that because I was like, well, wow, what an amazing run. It was on a Reece Parring course, which I love Reece's courses, so that was cool. And then we placed 6th with a 4-second seesaw hold in our first agility. Again, an absolutely stunning run. Really, really pleased with that. Perfect criteria on the seesaw first time. Straight into 2 on 2 off. He's really going, further along the seesaw, deeper into it before stopping now, which is amazing because he did have a phase of stopping short as well, which I've spoken about before. So really, really happy with that. Like I said, you could just tell he knows what he's doing now. He's getting his confidence there. We're not 100% there yet, but it's just great to see that it is paying off. And again, if I'd have not held his seesaw, we would have won that one as well. Looking at the times in the results, because it was 4 seconds, but priorities. And yeah, so that was an awesome run. We were then queuing up for our last agility of the day, our other agility run, on a really cool Stephanie Semcat course. So a bit gutted that we didn't get to run this one. And Arrow was stung by a wasp in the queue. And I got him to the start line and I released him, went to send him around the back of the jump, and he just walked. It was really bizarre. And then he started sniffing, so he was displacing. And then I went to pick him up because I was like, he's not right. And he growled at me. And I was like, he's in some sort of pain. And then I thought, he hasn't done anything. It can't be an injury. But there was a wasp that would not leave him alone in the queue. And I tried to bat it off him, and it had just come back every single time, little bastard. So, yeah, people who were watching was like, I think he's got stung by a wasp around his back end. So we did not get to run that course, obviously. But, we gave him a Piratani, had a rest, and he was absolutely fine. And like I said, the day after... this is how tired I am. Can't even get through a sentence without yawning. Surprised that's my first one of the podcast. There'll probably be more, so sorry in advance. But yeah, gave him the Piriton. He was a little bit drowsy that evening because of the Piriton, obviously. That is a side effect. But then the next day we got up and he was absolutely fine and back to normal. So thank the Lord he didn't have any sort of reaction to the wasp sting because, that can happen and it can be super serious. So very, very grateful. It was very minor. But yeah. So we obviously gave that last run a miss. But like I said, he was absolutely foot perfect in the 2 runs that we did do. And they both felt unreal. Again, my handling was back on form on that day after not being perfect on Saturday. On Sunday, I was really pleased with, how I attacked the courses, how he ran, stuff like that. So yeah, amazing day. And then the next day, which was Bank Holiday Monday. So that was the Agility Warrant. Oh my God. I just read AWC and was like, Agility Warrant. Oh, wait, no, that's not what it means. That's how tired I am. So AWC, Agility World Champs, which is in 22 days' time. We leave in 18 days, which is crazy. But yeah, the Bank Holiday Monday was the AWC team day. Now, because this is our first year getting chosen for the AWC team, this was our first AWC team day, and it was very, very fun and very, very helpful. I was absolutely blown away by Arrow's performance. He produced clear rounds on 2 agility courses designed by this year's AWC judges. So the judges that we are going to see and run under at the event in mid-September. So that is very, very promising. And yeah, really cool day. Only 2.5 weeks until we start our journey to Sweden. 2.5 weeks, which is absolutely insane. But yeah, Arrow absolutely smashed the courses that we ran there. So yeah, very, very fun few days, but also very, very tiring few days. So that is the weekly recap. So I will get straight into the bulk of the episode then. So back to speaking about why it happens when you least expect it in life in general, but mainly in agility as far as results go. You guys have probably already guessed, but I'm mainly relating this to, 2 things really. So the year 2024 Crufts, when we won the Agility Dog of the Year final in the main arena, and then also won every single other event that we ran at Crufts that year, except the Jumper Cup final, which was just a pole. Otherwise, I would have won that too. I went in and I was in the perfect mindset to do well, because I did not expect a single thing. And it was one of those points in my agility career where I'd almost given up. I was like, you know what, screw it. I can't control it. I wasn't having a great time leading up to that as far as agility goes. We weren't getting the results I wanted. It all just seemed to be pushing against us, and I just kind of had enough. And I was like, right, let's just go and let's just do it, get it done. Not expecting anything from it, not really, not wanting anything from it, but not feeling like I need anything from it at this point, because screw it. And we did so well. And then the next example is obviously Welsh KC the other week, where we got the champ ticket, even though I went into the final thinking all I want out of this is to hold his seesaw and get seesaw criteria in a final, in a high pressure run, in that kind of atmosphere environment, you know what I mean? And I held the seesaw for 2 seconds because obviously I was concentrating on that. And then we ended up getting the ticket anyway. So there's 2 examples of when it's really happened in quite a major way for me. And I'm sure it's happened to you guys before. It just does seem to be the way that it works. So I'm going to go a little bit deeper into the science behind that today. So first and foremost, like I said, results often seem to come when you least expect them in life and in sports, because focusing on the strict outcome-based expectations that you put on yourself will hinder your performance, while a focus on the process and consistent effort, so making sure you're just putting that consistent effort in over time, leads to unexpected improvements in your performance, okay? Which kind of makes sense, because going through the process and putting in consistent effort does lead to improvement, okay, and progress. So that is kind of obvious. But, really being strict and having expectations, that are outcome-based, results-based from sort of the work you put in, thinking, the work I put in now will mean I get this result then, and being really strict about it just puts unnecessary pressure on yourself, okay? And not only that, which will, ruin your performance, because you're going to be too stressed to perform well, and feeling like you need it too much, and then you're going to get in your head and overthink it and all sorts like that, but it also ruins it for you. Like, it's just not as fun, is it, for you or your dog? If you're not having fun, neither's your dog. And we all know that our dogs do better when they're enjoying themselves. So high expectations, and again, there's a difference between having high expectations of yourself, going in and pushing yourself and, leveling up and challenging yourself and stuff like that. And, going for these big goals, which is absolutely fine, but unrealistically high expectations where you feel like if that doesn't happen, you're the worst, or, you're going to hold it against you, or you're going to be really upset, and you really need that to, feel good about yourself, or, continue along the process. Those kind of high expectations will undermine your confidence, and when you let go of those pressures and commit to the controllable aspects of training and effort, which, like I said, is the effort you put in and the process you follow, and your consistency, instead of the uncontrollable aspect of the results. Because, like I said, I saw a quote on Instagram the other day, and it was something along the lines of, if you... Oh, God, I can't remember exactly what it is. I might have to go and actually find that in my archive on Instagram stories, because I shared it and I just thought, you know what, this is bang on. So I think, here it is. So the hard truth about competition: you can execute perfectly and still lose, and you can execute poorly and still win. Focus on the process, not the outcome. So, even if you do your very, very best run, very, very best job, you can still lose because someone else is having an even better day. But you could execute poorly and have a scrappy run and still win because no one else did better. They were having an off, your competitors weren't having a good day, So that kind of says it all. And that shows how uncontrollable the outcome and the results are. So, like I said, if you let go of those pressures and commit, I can't say that word today, commit. It's not a commit, it's a commit, Commit to the controllable aspects of training, which is effort, your skills will develop more freely, and this will lead to breakthroughs and success that actually feel surprising because you're like, oh, this has actually happened quite quickly, this has seemed to just kind of come to me, and you're not even, because, it's unexpected because you're not thinking about it, if that makes sense. You're just thinking about what you're doing, each small step and the process that you're on, if that makes sense. So the negative impact of expectations then. So first of all, which is obvious, you've got pressure and anxiety. So strong and unrealistic expectations create pressure to perform, leading to nervousness on your part and a decreased ability to perform at your best, okay? So when you're anxious and feeling under pressure, it's a worldwide phenomenon. We're not going to perform at our best, okay? Like I said, that's just as simple as that. And obviously, like I said, when you're feeling like that, so will your dog, especially if you've got a dog that's a bit like Arrow, or to be fair, any dog really. They all pick up on us, don't they? I mean, Ethel doesn't really, but I'm sure still in some way she does. They just, it comes out in a different way depending on the dog. But our dogs will sense that pressure and anxiety coming off of us, and then they also won't perform at their best. So if we've got unrealistic expectations or desperation to achieve a certain result when we go into the ring to perform, we're going to be too nervous to focus and concentrate and get the job done. Okay, we're not going to be concentrating on the job that we have to do. We're just going to be thinking about, the fear's going to be festering about, what if it goes wrong? I really need this, etc. So yeah, it's also going to damage your confidence. So unrealistic expectations and the pressure to produce those results can actually weaken your confidence. And by confidence, I mean obviously a belief in your ability to execute, not an attachment to a specific outcome. So confidence shouldn't be, I'm confident because I got this result. It should be, I'm confident because I know that I have the ability to execute and do this job properly because I've put in the training and the effort and the time and the consistency over time to get to that point, if that makes sense. So deep-rooted confidence shouldn't come because of results in competition. Because like I said, you can execute poorly and still get those results. You can execute well and not get the results that you're after. So confidence should come from your own genuine belief in your own ability to execute the job at hand. And like I said, that comes from effort over time and consistency, okay? So focus on an outcome or a result then. So in sport then, when athletes focus too much on the result, they actually divert their attention away from the process and actions that they can control, making the desired outcome actually less likely. So if they're focusing on the desired outcome more, they're actually going to end up diverting their attention away from the process and the actions that they actually need to take to get that result and that outcome, which are the things that are in their control, okay? Like I talk about the controllables, not the uncontrollables. So if they're not then putting all their focus and attention on the process and actions they need to take to perform well, that outcome that they're obsessing over isn't going to happen anyway, if that makes sense. So it is literally a vicious circle. Like it's quite ironic really. If you focus too much on the result that you want, you're less likely to get it because you're going to forget and not be thinking and focusing on doing what you actually have to do to get the result if you're just thinking about the result. So the power of process focus then. So control what you can. Huge. By focusing on process goals. So process goals are the small, consistent actions that you can control. For example, your technique, your nutrition, your effort, your fitness, stuff like that, your training. You build a strong foundation for success. Okay, so those are process goals. And in my opinion, they are way more important than outcome goals because those goals will eventually get you to the outcome goals anyway without you having to fixate on them. So invisible improvements. So real progress often happens in tiny, unmeasurable ways in your technique, consistency, and mental toughness, leading to a sudden breakthrough when you least expect it. Okay, so like I said, progress isn't linear and progress isn't overnight. It often happens in a way that you can't see each tiny little improvement. They are invisible, but eventually over time they do compound and you suddenly step back and you go, oh, look, I've actually, made a real a real improvement here. Like changes has really happened. And it's almost like when you say see someone's puppy and then say you see someone's puppy when it's 8 weeks old. You then don't see it until it's a year. You see it again and you're like, wow, look at the change. It's obvious. But if it's your puppy, you don't notice the change. Like the process of it growing is almost invisible to you because you see it every day. So and it just happens that gradually that you don't wake up one day and think, oh, it's suddenly really big. Because it's not suddenly really big because you're consistently seeing it day in, day out. And that, I think, is exactly the same as what I'm saying here. The progress and the process happens in tiny, unmeasurable ways, okay? In things like your technique, your consistency, and your mental game as well. Okay, so all these things are improving every single day in small ways that you're probably not aware of, but it is happening. And then suddenly they'll compound and you'll go, oh, suddenly I'm here, if that makes sense. Okay, and that is a breakthrough and you'll least expect that to happen. So when it does happen, you'll be like, oh, wow, I didn't see that coming, because you were being so consistent and it was just kind of part of the process, if that makes sense. So freedom and flow then. So releasing strict expectations allows you to play with more freedom and confidence. By play, play sport, play, life, anything like that. But, it allows you to kind of execute what you're doing with more freedom and confidence, which is crucial for high-level performance, okay? So, like I said, we all know when we go into an agility run, if we, are feeling relaxed and free and we can run with that kind of freedom and just attack and go for it openly, it always goes better, okay? And flow then, when we're doing that, we feel in so much better flow. We build momentum, we're really in the zone. Whereas if we're worrying about, the outcome and putting these strict expectations on ourselves and, just basically going into a run, for example, and thinking, I need to go clear, you're not going to have any flow in that run. You're going to be clunky, you're going to be stop-starty, you're going to be jittery. It's not going to flow. You're not going to feel free. There's no freedom there whatsoever in the run. You're going to be clunky. Like I said, you're going to feel restrictive. You're going to, you're not going to be handling your best because you're going to be almost like you're holding on for dear life and clenching on and gripping on, which is not freedom and flow at all, okay? And not only will this actually ruin your performance anyway, but it will also make it so much less enjoyable. Like for me, and I'm sure other people too, there is absolutely nothing worse, in my opinion, than going in and just having, feeling like you have to cling on to a clear round, if that makes sense. Whereas if you just go in and go for it, even if you get E'd, it's a way more enjoyable experience, okay? So freedom and flow is all part of it. So now a little bit of advice, a few top tips to end the episode. How to achieve unexpected success then without again, it sounds funny. Oh, how to achieve unexpected success. But actually, it's not really a how to, and you shouldn't have to, again, be expecting, you can't expect unexpected success. So this sounds a bit bizarre, but just a few top tips, to kind of take that pressure off yourself and focus on the process so that you will eventually achieve your goals and success. Again, no guarantee when that is, but, for it to come when you least expect it, is to first of all embrace the struggle. So understand that setbacks are part of the learning process. They're not failures and can actually serve as powerful motivators for future improvement. So that's one of the biggest things. And I've really struggled with this, is seeing, setbacks or bad days or bad runs as failures and then letting that put me off, letting that ruin my mental state. And, then I'll go into the next run feeling more clunky and restrictive and scared to go wrong again because I'm like, I can't have another quote unquote failure. It's that like scarcity or scarcity mindset, that fearful mindset. But seeing these setbacks and quote unquote failures or bad runs as motivators to keep pushing in the same way and keep improving over time, and just not having that rush to do so, like not having that deadline to achieve success, quote unquote. And again, success is so relative. Like everyone's version of success is different. And since I have changed my definition of success from, winning the competition, if that makes sense, like winning a class, to achieving perfect 2 on 2 off criteria on the seesaw. Like that is my definition of success. And along the way of doing that, I've actually experienced double success, because oftentimes, and not always, like sometimes I'll go in and me enforcing that criteria means I don't get a result, but it doesn't matter because I've achieved success anyway, because that was my definition of success going in. But often as well, like with the champ ticket, for example, at Welsh KC that we just had, sometimes we'll go in, we'll focus, you'll focus on your definition of success, which is something that's not the result, and you'll end up getting that result anyway. So it's a double whammy of success, okay? So another point is to compete with yourself. Now, this is huge and something I've spoken about a lot before as well. You must focus on competing with your past self to improve, instead of constantly comparing yourself to others, because there's literally nothing more pointless and nothing more demoralizing than comparing yourself to others, comparing your dog to others, because like I always say, everyone's journey is different, and success will actually be much, much more rewarding and more measurable if you compete and compare to you and your dog from the past month of competition, from the past year of competition, from when you first started competing. We can go back years here. You're going to win against that past self, okay? That needs to be your goal. You're going to win against them, because as long as you put the effort in to improve and the consistency and the time and the training, then you will beat your past self every single competition. I mean, of course, you're going to have those down days where you feel like you've taken a step back. But again, I'm talking consistency in the long term. You are going to see yourself beating your past self because you just keep improving. Whereas comparing yourself to others and competing, and it's hard because, yes, we are competing against other people. But like I said, everyone's so different that, you kind of have to, you do have to just forget about the fact that you're competing against them and let the results kind of just happen, okay? Because there's so many factors in it as far as competing against other people. Like there's so many factors in it that, are completely unrelated to the amount of effort you've put into training and stuff like that. Whereas if you're competing with your past self, all the effort you've put in and all the training you've put in will show, because you will win against your past self if you measure it like that. So that is just, again, a better way to measure it, in my opinion, and it's just a way better motivator for you to keep going. And yeah, it's just way more satisfying and fulfilling and rewarding, in my opinion. So last point then is to stay consistent. So keep training and putting 100% effort in, even when immediate results aren't visible. So the worst thing you can do for yourself and your partnership and your progress over time is to, not see those results immediately that you're after and give up and go, my training's clearly not paying off. My effort's clearly not paying off. I'm not going to bother. That's the worst thing you can do ever. So momentum builds and results will appear when you least expect them, okay? So keep the momentum going by staying consistent and, sticking to the process and trusting the process. Stick to the plan, trust the process, give it time, be patient. And, you'll build that flow, you'll build that momentum over time, and the results will happen when you least expect them. So that is all from me today, guys. I hope you found that episode helpful. It is, like I said, something I'm super interested in, and something that I've really found, relevant for my own journey and, myself at the moment, which, again, talking to a lot of you guys, you've also, experienced similar. But yeah, if you have any further questions, please do reach out to me and ask them. I will be more than happy to chat to you guys further about this topic or any other topic you would like my opinion on, advice on, or just to have a little chat. More than open to that. That would be grand. Give me a follow on social media, which is where you can slide into my DMs, at Paws in Pursuit on pretty much all the platforms, or Summer Clark on a few as well. You will find me. and you can keep up with me and Arrow and what we're getting up to over there. Also, if you enjoy the podcast, if you enjoyed today's episode, please do give the podcast a 5-star rating and review wherever you listen to your podcasts. Spotify and Apple Podcasts being the main 2 platforms there, I believe. But that would mean the world to me. And comment on this episode whether you found this helpful, and 2, also if you can relate. And I would just love to hear if you guys relate to this and what your experiences around this topic are. That would be great to hear in the comments if you could. And what else do I say in this mini part of this little outro part of the episode? I think that's it. That's another thing that I can now say in my outros is I offer in-person agility training in Lincoln. So that is what I was going to say. What is coming up for me in the next week? Lots and lots of teaching for a start, okay? So I have just recently got my own venue to teach agility. So I have a full set of equipment in Lincoln, which is the LN6 postcode. So if you would like in-person one-to-one lessons with me in Lincoln, please do get in touch and we can get something booked in. I also run group classes at that venue. So if you'd like to join a regular weekly or fortnightly group in Lincoln, also please get in touch and we can book you in and you can train with me. So I would love to teach you guys. And I've got a busy few weeks coming up of teaching before I go to Sweden and then more when I get back. Still can't believe that this is my job now. Like, absolutely over the moon and excited. Like I said, this afternoon, actually, it's Tuesday today, I have my first one-to-one lesson at the new venue. So very excited for that. So this week is kind of my first week of work at the new venue. So cannot wait. What else do I have coming up? I have Gillingham at the weekend. So Friday we're going down. We're staying in an Airbnb because it's quite a while away from us actually. And then Saturday and Sunday we'll be competing at Gillingham. We've got singles, Cruff singles, and also the IQ. So there's another Team GB international qualifier held at Gillingham. So we'll be doing that. And I think singles is Saturday and IQ is Sunday, I think. But that'll be fun. Like I said, all I'm going in to do is, like I said, seesaw criteria all the way. Got to practice what I preach that I've talked about in this episode, because it does work so well, and I'm just going to continue with that mindset. And super happy with how Arrow seesaws are going at the moment by doing what I've been doing. So just gonna be doing more of that. So if any of you guys are at Gillingham, it'd be great to see you guys there. And I absolutely love it when you guys come up to me and tell me that you're a podcast listener and give me suggestions for future episodes. If you aren't there to do that in person, then please do send me a DM with podcast episode topic recommendations. So if you would like me to discuss a particular topic in a solo episode, please do let me know what that is. It's pretty much guaranteed that I will make that into an actual episode. And I definitely will if you give me a decent suggestion, which I'm sure all of you have great ideas. Also, let me know what guests you would like me to have on the podcast in the future and what topics you would like me to talk about with said guests. I have Holly Barker on the podcast at the end of the month. I think that will be happening at the start. So the second episode in October will be a podcast episode with Holly Barker talking all about the nutrition of an agility dog, because obviously the first week of October will be the monthly Q&A. I didn't do a proper monthly Q&A in August because it was just a giant EO recap, wasn't it, which was a Q&A in itself because I got you guys to ask me questions about the experience. But normal regular monthly Q&A will be start of October. But I will stop rambling now and let you guys get on with your Wednesday and the rest of your week. I will speak to you all next Wednesday at 8 p.m. as usual. Have a great week, guys, and I might see some of you at Gillingham over the weekend. Bye, guys.